Okay, so let's do some of this bottom detail here, and I think we actually want to have the bottom of this extruded out a little bit farther here. Okay, you can see that the bracket we just made piece there is actually sitting against a little bit of a lip here, and then the doors are on the bottom of that. And we could just pull this polygon out to get a little bit of a recess there, but because we've already chamfered down the edges here on the main piece of the base, that's going to give us a little bit of a problem. So just for the sake of speed, I think I'll just put another small box on the bottom of this. Okay, so let's actually select this piece and this piece, and then we'll hide unselect it. Okay, then we'll go into the top view, and let's just go back into the create panel, grab another box. Okay, we'll just maybe do this a slight bit smaller than the bottom. Okay, let's give it a little bit of height, and we'll also center it. Okay, on X and Y, and we'll move it down in the front view. Okay, and just set it on the bottom here. Okay, just like that. And we'll also just move it down the left view to the back. Right. So I'm just going to line it up just behind the band there that we made, and we'll see. Let's figure out the width of this. Let's do 190.7 on the length. Do 63 on the width, and let's do maybe 4 on the height. Okay, and we'll just leave it a little bit in from the sides so that we have another reveal there. Okay, just to make it look a little bit more detailed. Right. So let's right click and we'll convert this to editable poly. Let's move this up a little bit just to make sure it's touching the bottom. Okay, like that. Okay. And I think that should be fine. Okay, so we really don't need to add any detail to this piece. We'll just round the corners off a little bit. So let's convert to editable poly. We're going to edge. Let's actually delete the top polygon here first. Select the top polygon and we'll just delete that. Then we'll go into edge and we'll just hit Control A. Okay, let's actually deselect the top ones. There's really no reason to chamfer those. So let's just select the edges in the left view, the bottom and the sides. Okay, we'll leave the top unselected. Okay, and then we'll just chamfer these ones down just a little bit. Okay, we'll do something like 0.25 and okay. Right, let's just throw the black color on there. Okay, we'll just see how this looks. Okay, so that'll give us a little bit of an extra edge on the sides, which will make it look a little bit more detailed. Okay, so I think that's good. And now we can just put these doors on. Okay, and they're pretty simple too, pretty much just boxes. And I'm not going to cut the holes in over here, just for the sake of time. I'm going to leave those off, as well as the one around the piece here that goes into this side piece. Okay, so let's start working on the doors. Okay, so for the doors, we could do this out of boxes, but you can see that we have a couple of holes cut into them here for handle holds. Okay, and there's also a cutout around this piece sticking out here and here. Okay, so I think the best way for us to do that will probably be splines. Okay, we'll just do that because it's going to be a little bit faster than trying to cut the holes in with edit poly. Okay, so let's go in here. Let's just select the main base piece here and we'll just hide that. Okay, so we got this piece left. Okay, we'll go into the top view. You can see we have a kind of a small door here, and then we have a larger one here and another one at the back. Okay, so let's zoom in on this. in the top view. Okay, I'm just going to zoom into the end here. Okay, and we'll go into shapes. Let's grab a rectangle. Okay, and I'm going to make this a little bit narrower than our box here on the bottom. Okay, so we'll just drag this out for a second. Okay, and let's just figure out the size. We'll also go up to the move tool and we'll just zero out the X spinner. Okay, so it's centered. Okay, and let's do maybe 45 on the length, and let's do maybe 61 on the width. Okay, so just like that, we'll just put it right there. Okay. Okay, and for the handhold, let's do another rectangle. Okay, we'll just drag that out. You can see it's at the back side here, this cut in and the handhold. Okay, so we'll just drag another rectangle out in the center here. Okay, and we'll also center that on X. Right. And for the size of this one, let's do maybe 6. And for the width, let's do maybe 13. Okay. And just let me change the color of these. Okay, so just like that. And let's select the outer rectangle here. We'll convert it to editable spline. Okay, and let's go into vertex. We'll select all the corner verts, all 4 of them. Let's scroll down here to fillet, and we'll just give these a bit of a round over. Okay, so I'm just going to hold the button down and drag up. Okay, let's do maybe about a 2.1 or so on the fillet. Right, we'll go to vertex, and let's select the middle one here. And let's also convert that to an editable spline. And we'll do the same thing here, go into vertex, select the vertices, and we'll fillet these over. Okay, we want this to be a little bit more round. Let's do about 2.5 for the fillet on that one. And okay. We'll go to vertex. Alright, and you can see that the hole at the back here is pretty much just half of the shape of that. So let's just hold down shift, we'll drag and copy this up. Okay, up to the edge. Choose copy and okay. Let's just zoom in here. I'm just going to go into vertex. Let's select all the verts on this piece. We'll just move this up a bit. Okay. Just so this vertex here is lined up with the edge pretty much. Okay. Just like that. Okay, then we'll turn that off. See if this looks about right. I think we might be able to scale the handheld down just a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to scale it down slightly. Right. And then we'll go back up here. Let's select the circle piece here. We'll go into segment. And let's select the top 3 segments, and we'll just delete those. Okay, get out of segment. Okay, then we'll select the outside rectangle here, and we'll go into vertex, and we'll go down to refine. Okay, we'll just add a vert right here at the edge, and one over here. Okay, just like that. We can turn off refine, and we'll go into segment. Whoops, just select that middle segment there. We can just delete that. Okay, just to cut that out. Okay, so let's turn off segment. We'll go down to attach, and we'll just attach all 3 of these together. Okay, then we'll go back into vertex, and we'll just weld these 2 corners here. So we'll select the 2 verts here. Okay, we'll go down to weld and just up this a bit, and it will hit weld, and we'll do the same for these 2 here, and weld, and okay. Alright. So I think that's good for the first door, and we'll move on to the second one here. Okay, and it looks like we have the cutout on this piece as well, and probably also at that end. Okay, so let's drag a copy on the X or the Y up, holding shift. Okay, we'll just choose copy and okay. Let's go up to rotate and make sure you have your angle snaps on. Just rotate this 90 degrees. Okay, just like that. Okay, and we'll just push this down leave a little bit of a gap between the two. Okay, something like that. And let's also do another shift drag. Okay, up like that. We'll do another copy and okay. Let's just rotate this around again, 180 degrees. Okay. And let's see, let's go into segment on this one. Okay, we'll just select the bottom 3 segments here and delete those. And we'll select the second door here. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on this one. Delete the top 3 segments and okay. And then we'll just move this one down so that the edges line up. Okay, like that. And now we'll attach them together, so we'll go to attach and just click on this one. Turn that off, then we'll just go to vertex and just weld these 2 verts here and the 2 on this side. Okay, so it's all one piece. Okay, and you can see on here that the holes are a little bit farther down to the end. Alright, so let's just move this guy down a bit. So let's go to segment. Let's grab all the segments on this hole and let's just slide it up a bit. Okay, we'll just bring it up about halfway maybe. Okay, like that. And okay. And for the end one, let's drag another copy of this one down. Okay, choose copy and okay. And we'll just leave a little bit of gap between these two as well. Okay, let's go into segment again. Let's select the center segments around the 2 holes and we'll just delete those. You can see here that there really isn't any on this piece. Okay, so delete those. Let's also grab these segments here, everything from the halfway point up, and we'll delete those. Then we'll turn off segment and we'll go into shapes again. Let's grab a line. And I'm just going to put my snaps on for a minute and just make sure you have vertex checked when you right click on that. Okay, and then we're just going to drag a line from this vert to this one and then right click the end. Okay. And let's select the, let's turn off snaps first. We'll select our door here and then we'll just attach it to the new line. Okay, and then we'll go back into vertex and weld the corners. Okay, and then we'll just select these guys and we'll just push them up to the end. And then we'll go to fillet and we'll just round the corners over again. Okay, just like that. We could probably do these a little bit closer to the end. Okay, so just like that. Okay, so let's just drag through and select all 3 of the doors. Okay, and in left view, let's just pull these down to the bottom here. Alright, and we'll just select the first one here, and let's put a shell on this. Okay, so down to shell. Okay, and we don't need this to be really thick. Let's do maybe 2 on the outer amount. Let's do 1.5 maybe. Okay, and let's just copy the modifier here. Okay, and I'm just going to select the next door down, and we'll just right click and paste that in there, and we'll do the same for the third one. Okay, just to shell all 3 of them. Right, and then we'll come up to the first one again. Let's right click and convert this to editable poly. Okay, and let's go into isolation mode with Alt Q. Okay, then we'll go into polygon, go around to the other side here, select the top poly, and just delete that because we'll never see that one. Okay, and then we'll go into edge, and let's just go into the front view here. We'll select all the edges. Okay, then we'll hold Alt and just deselect the top and sides. Okay, so the only thing we have selected is the bottom border. Okay, and we'll also deselect this edge here. Alright, and make sure you have ignore back facing turned off. Okay, so we'll just give this a little bit of a chamfer. Let's take this down. Okay, we'll take that down. Let's do maybe 0.3 and okay. Okay, just to round it off a little bit. Okay, we'll just check to see if that renders properly. Okay, occasionally we'll get an artifact around the edge, but that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's turn that off and we'll exit isolation mode. And we'll repeat the process on the other 2 doors here. Okay, so let's convert this one to editable poly. Go into isolation mode. Delete the top polygon. Go into edge. Grab all the edges. deselect the top and sides. Okay, and then we'll also deselect these two. And then we'll do a chamfer and 0.3. And OK. And then we'll just check this one. That looks good. So we'll exit that and do the same thing on the last door here. Convert to editable poly. Isolation mode. Delete that polygon. And just grab all the edges and deselect the top and sides. Okay. Then we'll chamfer that down the same amount, 0.3. And OK. And we'll check it. Okay, looks good. So we can exit isolation mode. Let's just select all three doors, and in the left view here, let's just move them up and put them against the base. Alright, just like that. Alright. Okay, and you can see here that the handholds just punch right through to the inside, so it's really just showing this piece of the box up above it. And if you wanted to fix that and actually have some geometry in the hole, let's just select this. We'll go back into isolation mode with Alt Q. Okay, then we'll go to border. We'll just select the border on the inside of the hole, okay, the top one. Okay, and then we can just hit cap. Okay, and then we'll hold control and click on edge. So we have the top edges selected there. Alright. And if we go into the front view here, we can just move these down, right, to shorten that hole up if you don't want it to be as deep as the entire door. Okay. So we just pull it down like halfway or something. Okay, so just like that, that'll make it look a little bit finished. And let's actually just do that on the other doors while we're at it. Okay, so we'll do that to the second one. Select that. Let's go into isolation mode. Okay, we'll just select both top borders here of the holes. Okay, and we'll do a cap, and then control click edge. Alright, we'll just move these down a bit too. Alright, just so they're not as deep. Okay, and I think that looks a little bit better. Alright, so we'll test render again. Yeah, and that looks good enough, especially at a distance. Okay, so I think we'll just go with that for the doors. So let's exit isolation mode. And let's just name these. Let's call this barrel door. And we'll just do a 1. Okay, and I'll just copy the name off of that. And we'll just paste it onto the other ones. Let's do 2 and 3. Okay, we'll change the color of all three of them, and we'll put our gray shader on there. Okay, just like that. Okay, so I think we should probably start getting some of these hinges in here, and it's kind of hard to see what these look like, but I think we'll just do a simple version, a little more simplified than these. Okay, so let's go in here and let's unhide our base piece. So I'm going to go into the display tab and we'll go unhide by name. Okay, and we'll just select the barrel base. I think that's what it was called, and unhide. Okay. Right, and let's just start this with maybe a box. Alright, so let's go into the left view. We'll zoom in on the front door here. Okay. Let's grab a box and let's just go from maybe this edge here. Okay, we'll just come down to the bottom. Okay. And we'll give it a little bit of height. Right, and actually let's take this down a little bit more. Let's do maybe 2.5 for the length, and let's do maybe 3 for the width, and maybe 2 or so for the height for now. Okay, and we'll just do one segment each way. Right, let's just move this down and line it up with the bottom edge here. Okay, and then we'll just move it over to the side in the front view. Okay, and let's just put it out on this piece here. Okay, just against the side of this piece. And we'll see what that looks like. Okay, I think that should be a decent size. So in the left view, let's convert this to editable poly. Let's go into edge, and grab these edges. Let's do a connect on that with 2 segments. And let's just take this in a little bit on the pinch. Let's do maybe -10 and OK. Let's go into polygon. Alright, and we'll just select the 2 top polys. Okay, let's extrude those out. And we'll take this way down. Okay, let's do maybe 2.2 and OK. And in the left view here, let's go back to edge and we'll grab the side edges here. Do another connect. We'll do 1 segment, no pinch. Slide that in a bit towards the base. Let's do maybe -50 and OK. And then we'll go into vertex and grab these verts. Let's just angle those a bit. Okay, let's grab all these middle ones actually. Let's pull this down a little bit more. Okay. And this will be a pretty small detail on the whole model, so we don't really have to spend a lot of time getting it perfect. Alright, so let's just do something like that. Let's go into edge and we'll do Control A. Okay, let's just go into the side view here. We'll just deselect a few of these edges. Let's deselect these ones here. And let's turn off ignore back facing. Okay, we'll just deselect these side ones and these ones here. Okay, we just want to pretty much do the outline. Okay, maybe just like that. And I'm going to go into wireframe for a second and just check out the inside. Okay, we'll deselect these 2 and these 2. Okay, so pretty much just the outlines. Right, and let's just chamfer that down. Okay, let's do that maybe, let's do 0.08 and OK. And let's put a little plate in behind it. So let's grab another box. Okay, we'll just drag that out, maybe something like that. Give it a little bit of height. Right, and just try to make sure it's centered on the pieces here. So let's do maybe 3x4. Maybe 3x4.2. Okay, just so it sticks out a little bit. And let's give it a little bit more height maybe. Let's do 3.2. And we'll just move this over in the front view to the edge. Let's just push it against the edge there. And I think we can thin it up a little bit. Let's take this down. Let's do maybe 0.15 or so for the thickness on that. Okay. And let's also convert that to editable poly. And let's go into polygon. We'll select all the polys. Then we'll just hold Alt and deselect the front and side, so we just have the back face. Select it. Okay, we'll delete that. Then we'll go into edge and we'll just do Control A. And we'll just give this a slight chamfer as well. It doesn't have to be a lot. Let's do maybe 0.03 and OK. And I'm just going to select the main piece of the hinge here and just move it out a little bit more. Okay. Just out like that maybe. Just so it's sitting against the surface. Let's move it in a little bit. Maybe like that. And let's see. The bottom's pretty simple. Let's just do that out of a spline. Okay, so go back into the top view. We'll zoom in here. And then we'll go into the shapes. And let's grab another rectangle. Right. Let's just start there maybe, and we'll just bring this over like that. Alright. Let's try to center it to the hinge. Let's see. Let's do maybe 2.3, and we'll do maybe 6 on the width. Right, and we'll convert that to editable spline. and we'll drop this down into vertex. Let's select all 4 vertices, and then we'll go over here to fillet, and we'll just round it over a bit again. Let's do that maybe 0.5 or so on the fillet. Right? And then we'll move this down in the front view. Okay. Let's just put it there for a second. A little bit more down. Okay. And we'll see if that looks like about the right size. Could maybe go a little bit bigger, so let's just scale it up. Maybe like that. Right, and let's put a shell on here. Okay, and let's take this down quite a bit. Let's just do maybe 0.25 on the outer amount. Okay, and then we'll right click and convert that to editable poly. And then we'll go into edge, and let's just do Control A, and then we'll drag through the center edges in the front view, okay, just so we have both borders around the top and bottom selected. Let's just chamfer this over a bit. Let's do maybe about 0.3 or so, and okay. And I'm not going to bother cutting any holes through this for bolts or anything. I don't really think we have time to do that. This tutorial's already getting pretty long, so I'm trying to just get as much detail in as I can before I run out of time. Okay, so I think that's pretty good for the hinge. It probably wouldn't function, obviously, but that's okay. We're never going to have to open these doors anyways. Alright, so let's do something like that. And let's go back into the display tab, and we'll just close that up. Let's go to unhide by name, and let's just find a bolt. Alright, let's do just one of our bolts here. We'll just do bolt 79, and I'm not sure exactly where that is. Looks like it's over here. Okay, and that's one of the ones from the grill. Okay, so we'll just use that for the bottom of this. So in the top view, I'm just going to hold shift and drag a copy over to our hinge. We'll choose copy and OK, and then we'll select the bolt 79 there, and we'll just right click and hide select it so we don't move that. Okay, so let's just move this down into position. Okay, and let's rotate it 90 degrees. And it's obviously way too big, so let's just get it in here and then we'll scale it down. Okay, and let me just change the color of these other pieces here. Okay, so I'm just going to put the black color on there and the gray shader. Okay, then we'll just select our bolt here and we'll just scale that down a bit in the top view. Okay, let's take it down pretty small. Let's do something like that maybe. And let's put one here at the end. Okay, and then we'll just hold shift and do a copy. Like that, and let's do one more over here. Okay, and then in the front view here, we'll just move them up and set them against that plate. Okay, just like that. And I know that's pretty quick, but it should be fine. Okay, I'm actually going to just scale them a little bit on the Y just to shrink them up. Okay, just down a little bit like that, and then we'll just push them in. Okay. And we have kind of a cylinder extrusion coming out at the ends here. It's a little hard to see. Let's just do something there quick. Okay, so in the top view, let's go over to the end here. And let's grab a cylinder. Okay, let's just draw that out. Give it a little bit of height. We'll just try to center it on our hinge. Okay, maybe something like that. Let's move it down. Okay, and let's go into the modify panel here. We'll do 0.7 for the radius. Whoops. Okay, and let's do maybe 1 or so for the height. Okay, and we'll take the height segments off. Let's give this a few more sides. Let's do maybe 24. And we'll give it a cap segment as well. Let's just go in here. We'll convert this down to a poly. Let's go into edge. We'll select an edge on that loop there. And we'll do a loop around that center one. Okay. And then we'll just scale this out a little bit. And let's go into polygon. And I'm going to turn on ignore back facing. Okay, we'll just select the middle polygons here. Right. Let's extrude that out a bit. Let's do maybe 0.3. And okay. And let's go back into edge here. Let's grab these middle edges and do another connect. Okay, I'm just going to take this down a little bit on the slide. Let's do about 30 and okay. And then we'll go back into polygon and we'll just hit shrink once. Okay, so we got the center one selected. Let's extrude this out a little bit more. Let's do maybe 0.6. Okay, and I think that's somewhat what this looks like. Let's maybe take this down a little bit. Let's do 0.4 and okay. Right, and we'll just line it up here a little bit better. Let's just push it over to the left a little bit. Okay, and we'll just quickly chamfer down some of these edges. So let's do that one and this one. Let's chamfer those down. Okay, we'll just do that a bit. Let's do 0.3 or 0.03 and okay. Let's grab this one and this one here, as well as the bottom one, and we'll just do a loop on those. Okay, and I'll take that down to maybe 0.01 and okay. Right, and in the front view here, I'm just going to turn off ignore back facing. Grab these verts. I'm just going to move them down a bit. Okay. And let's throw a smooth on there. Okay, and let's do auto smooth again, and we'll change the color. Let's put the gray shader on there. Okay, and let's just name some of this stuff. So let's call this maybe, let's just call this hinge, maybe pin. Okay, and I'm just going to copy the hinge off of that. Okay, and let's select the piece here. We'll just name that hinge plate. And this one, let's do hinge main. And the one up here, let's do hinge base. Okay, and then these bolts, let's just put that in there and we'll just call that a 1. And we'll do the other two here, if we can select them. There we go. Let's do bolt 02. Okay, just to keep everything organized. Okay. And let's go back into the front view and let's just select the hinge base, the main part, the plate, the cylinder, and the 3 bolts. Okay, just so we have everything selected, and let's just do a group on this. Okay, we'll just name that hinge and okay. And apologize for going fast on that part, but I'm just worried about the time. Okay, so let's make some copies of this one and let's center its pivot point. Okay, and in the top view here, let's just clone this a few times. Okay, so let's move our copy down here to the end. Okay, and we'll just do it a little bit from the outside corner there. Okay, then let's hold shift and we'll drag a copy on the Y down to the other side. Okay, we'll try to position it about the same distance from the end. Okay, just like that. And then we'll do another one here. Okay, and one down at the other end. Okay, maybe there. And let's also do one in the middle, maybe. And I'm just going to eyeball the distance between them, okay, and try to get it even. Okay, maybe like that. And then we'll do a couple on the last door here. Let's put one there, maybe. And last one down here. Okay. We'll see how that looks. Alright. So I think that should be okay for those.